Wow, it's a game about time travel. That means I can make a bunch of half-hearted pop culture references instead of relying on actual jokes. Great Scott, timey-wimey stuff, Tracer, Morlocks, Putt-Putt travels through time. Hey there and welcome to the Hidden Chest, where I talk about overlooked, underrated, or underappreciated games you might not have tried. And just a heads up for transparency's sake, this game was given to me by its main developer and longtime viewer of the show, Mark the Shark Radice. Thanks, yo. Even though it was donated to me, I still only talk about games I really love. But luckily, Vision Soft Reset just happened to be one of those games. You win this round, Mark. It's a run-and-gun Metroidvania that if you don't beat it in half an hour, the world explodes. Let's just worry about that later. Right now, you're just a mysterious cyborg looking for crystals to unlock your chakras or something, I don't know. Let's start off with what I consider the best part of this experience, the combat. As far as basic mechanics go, it seems pretty simple, maybe a bit too simple. You can only hop around and shoot in the 4 cardinal directions at first. And I mean, you can't even crouch. Or shoot while crouching. But when you combine that base simplicity with airtight controls and the numerous powers you unlock later on, like dodges, charge shots, and a bunch of stuff I'm not gonna spoil, it's exhilarating, to say the least. Running around the world is so fun, it's borderline nirvana. Cough. As long as you use a controller as instructed by the game's description, cough. Of course, there's one important thing I've been skirting around that's what really takes the gameplay from to, whatever is more transcendent than Nirvana. Ultravana? Actually, is using that as an analogy offensive towards the entire Indian subcontinent? I mean, the band got away with it. Wow, it's a game about time travel. Or rather, maybe about seeing ahead in time? Whatever, it's complicated. Basically, you have 2 methods of time manipulation to play around with in combat. The first and most basic is your vision ability. It essentially lets you see an enemy's attack 1 second before they even do it, giving you the time to plan accordingly. Frankly, it kinda makes you feel like an untouchable space god, dodging waves of attacks like it's nothing and blasting would-be ambushers the second they even think about touching you. Nobody can hide from me! But even if they do hit you, your second ability is to rewind. In doing so, you can regain any hit points you lose and reposition yourself if you're in a bad spot. Of course, you have a meter that limits how much you can use it, and if you get too low, you lose your vision ability. So luckily for game balance, it isn't really spammable. Regardless though, health pickups are pretty uncommon here, so I'd use it quite a bit. Consequently, the combat is all about quick reflexes and dodging skills. You even get a bonus if you clear an enemy rush without losing any health. These amazing mechanics all eventually build up to, and I'm not exaggerating, one of the best boss fights I've faced in a video game. Just amazing. When you compare this high-octane action to something like, Super Metroid, the differences become pretty clear. Unfortunately, getting far into this game is literally impossible, considering the planet you're on is about to collapse in on itself in 20 minutes, and to be honest, it's a little bit of a buzzkill. Or at least that's what I would say if I wasn't obviously segueing into even more time travel. 88 miles per hour time warp again, there was that one Rudolph Christmas special. Does anyone remember that? So, timelines. How do I put this? Okay, every time you reach a save point in this game, you gain the ability to travel in time to that point whenever you want. To put it simply, it's a really cool fast travel system with temporal shenanigans. Ripping apart time and space is a gay old time, I'm telling you. Just by using this feature, you create multiple timelines where you're at different places at different times with different items, all the while different environmental factors are in effect. Like, is there a mechanized platform you need to move? Go to a timeline where you started the generator. Or maybe you just found a password for a door, so you can travel in time to when you were standing next to it. With this ability, you can, yes, absolutely beat the game within a 20-minute time span. Haha, you thought the whole game was only 20 minutes long? That was misdirection, you utter buffoon. I'm just kidding, I didn't mean it. Does this system sound a bit too good to be true? Well, there are a couple caveats. Like in that one movie with the angry Austrian man. No, the other one. Physical items are a no-go for time travel. Luckily, the new abilities you unlock in this game are comprised of data, so they can go with you, as well as cards, the game's main collectibles. However, health upgrades and time juice upgrades are physical, so if you traveled to before you collected them, you'd have to do so again. There's definitely a risk and reward factor. Of course, if you had the items on you when you saved, then you'll still have them when you travel back in time to that specific point. So if you need extra health or something, you could always start off from there. Okay, look, it's less complicated than I'm making it sound. The user interface really helps. Everything is neatly labeled and it's really easy to find what you need to do. The whole timeline feature does one thing really well, and that's streamline the entire Metroidvania backtracking thing. It ends up saving you a lot of time. Literally. Really, this entire game is just one big streamlining of Metroidvanias in general. It's like the boiled down juicy core of the entire genre. No fat, minimal padding, it just gets straight to the good stuff. For example, the power-ups. You know how in other Metroidvanias you gotta scan around for secrets constantly and shoot like every inch of wall and it gets pretty tedious? Well, Vision Soft Reset solves that by not having any. The only traditional hidden items you'll find are the cards, which give you increased damage to certain enemies. But even then, they're effectively out in the open. You just need to use your platforming and puzzle-solving skills to reach them. Meanwhile, health and time meter upgrades are quite literally just sitting around. So whenever you're in the area, you can just go and pick them up, like groceries, but not even remotely. Of course, the combat is fast-paced, like I previously mentioned, and the map is nice and compact, with lots of shortcuts all over the place and very little padding. Not a whole lot of super long and unnecessary corridors here. The whole thing really lends itself to speedrunning if that's your thing. Even most of the tutorials and story moments are optional conversations you can have on the pause screen. One negative about this game, however, is that within its minimalist approach, there are a couple moments where I feel like it could have done a better job at explaining itself. I guess since it was a mostly one-man project, things like that are bound to happen occasionally, but a fair review is a fair review. Luckily, I'm in a position to actually mitigate some of this stuff, so here are some tips on things that gave me a bit of trouble. Whether these problems arose from a lack of conveyance or my own stupidity is up to interpretation. You can gain a bit of height by aiming a charge shot downwards. This is especially useful underwater. If you run into a puzzle involving squares, a charge shot deactivates all the nodes. You see this code entry device? Ignore the cross in the middle. And finally, this one really hurt my opinion of the game bad. You see at this one point, there's this specific instance where, just kidding, that's pretty much all I've got. Did you know that Rudolph special has a time whale in it? His name is Big Ben. And now with that out of the way, let's go into our final talking points. The music, the visuals, and the story. Okay, the music. Let's see here. Meanwhile, the graphics are solid. The grid-based system and pixel art really reminds me of older Super Nintendo games. Simple and functional. But really, it's nothing spectacularly brain-blasting either, like some of its contemporaries. But overall, I like it. And then there's the story. It's, okay. Or rather, I'm pretty sure it's unfinished. Like, the game ends rather abruptly and on a cliffhanger, leaving a lot of questions completely unanswered. Like, remember that amazing boss I mentioned earlier? Well, for example, we never actually find out what her deal is. Apparently there's some beef between her and the main character, but it never ends up being addressed. Also, at the beginning of the game, you meet this lovable oaf that I assumed would play a big part in the story, or at least show up from time to time, but after that, he basically does nothing. The main villain also doesn't get much screen time either, unfortunately. Honestly, kind of a bummer, considering a sequel seems unlikely at this point. However, all that being said, the main character, Oracle, is totally amazing. What exactly she is and how she works is a really fascinating sci-fi concept, and her cocky attitude with her guy in the chair trope is just great. There's a sort of twist with her later on, and it's kind of amazing, and I love it, and I want merchandise now. So I've said my piece. Vision Soft Reset is loads of fun. The story could have used more time in the oven and some moments could have been conveyed better, but the gameplay, combat, brilliant time mechanics, and main character carry this game into the realm of a must-try if you love the genre. The game costs $10 and took me about 5 hours to beat. And considering how much fat cutting the game does, that's pretty impressive, I think. Something time is money joke. The game is also really challenging, so if you think you can handle it, you'll get quite the experience. I really hope one day this game can blossom into something big, become a series, and polish these mechanics to a perfect shine. Maybe then I can finally get the plushie of my dreams. It won't happen anytime soon, but maybe one day in the future. Because it's a game about time travel. Hey guys, before I go, I just want to point out that I started a Patreon. If you enjoy my videos, I'd really appreciate the support. You'll get updates, polls, Discord roles, and the ability to have your voice heard in all future list videos I make. Also, probably some other stuff I'll think of later. If you have any ideas, feel free to throw them out there. Check the link in the description if you're interested.